In the far-flung plains of central Turkey are the mystical valleys of Cappadocia. Valleys where fantasies turn into reality. Where mighty old fireflies ferry bucket loads of people. And the uncanny earth lets her guard down to make some cheeky little jokes. They come with the best tour guides one could ever imagine, who then take you around many secret churches and sometimes through deep and dark caves. Where rickety ruins call for a peek through their windows, friends are made over platefuls of dolma, and stories bartered around the filling of the mandi. This one is about the days we spent exploring the magical valleys of Cappadocia. The Cappadocian mornings begin with one thing and one thing only: hot air balloons. And there are two different ways of being at the center of all the excitement. The first and the obvious way is to ride the balloons and get a bird's eye view of the Anatolian landscape from the top. But if you can somehow curb that FOMO, you should stay on ground and pick option 2. Because like it or not, the balloons and its fanatically excited passengers blend into the Anatolian landscape like they're all part of the same canvas. So getting to one of the many viewing spots and watching a symphony of these big fat fireflies lighting up the sky as if to put on an opening act to the golden sunrise that is yet to come always gets a little underrated. There is another way though, for the ones who wouldn't mind some early morning exercise. You see, not everyone conforms to the same idea of romance or even travel. So sometimes, for some people, hiking through the valleys that get frequented by the balloons can be far more exciting than riding them instead. What's up everybody, how's it going? Welcome to one of the most magical places on our planet, Cappadocia. For a long time now, people have been talking about Cappadocia and its sunrises and the balloons and the fairy chimneys, and I've always had my doubts. But having come here today, I hate to admit it, I feel like I'm part of a fairy tale, man. Because this right here is an absolutely magical setup. One of those few instances where something man-made, like the hot air balloons, are only elevating the charm of this place. So yes, we've got a lot planned for the next 2 days. It's going to be our own Anatolian adventure, and let's get to it, shall we?
Well, I love you, baby. I don't mean maybe. I've been telling you for quite some time.
This guy's been accompanying every single hiker that's been entering this valley, and he's been getting free food in exchange for his cuteness.
For quite some time.
So we are in the Love Valley, surrounded by this incredible Cappadocian landscape with all these fairy chimneys popping up from the ground every few meters, and I find it really hard to believe that such places exist in nature. Like, it's just mind-boggling. Cappadocia used to be like a rocky desert, and many hundreds of years ago there was a volcano which exploded around here, and the lava from the volcano pretty much covered all these rocks. But lava, being porous, got washed away by all the rain and the wind and everything. So what's left are these castles which come up from the ground, and we are lucky enough to be able to walk through it.
Well, if you ask me, I feel like planet Earth has played a very, very big below the belt joke out here. If you know what I mean.
I think that if you're being really, really poetic about it, you'll be calling it magical, because imagine many hundreds of years ago people would come through and then there would be like these lamps lit in these chimneys, and then they thought they were fairies. Like people who would travel on these horses, they would see and they would be like, oh, these are fairy chimneys. But then, over a period of time, people called it phallic structures, which is a scientific way of saying
You'll have to cool me down. Ooh, you'll have to cool me down somehow.
Now that the balloons have landed and we've gotten over the phallic structures and the cute sea dogs, we are going ahead with the next thing on our plan today. We'll be actually hiking the Love Valley all the way from Goremi to Uchasar, which are like these two towns in Cappadocia. And we don't know what to expect from this hike, but we've just heard that it's beautiful, like always. So let's get to it and discover this place.
I've had some good days, and I've had some worse.
Ne yapıyorsunuz? Geziyor musunuz?
Love Valley hike.
Hike.
Teşekkürler.
Teşekkürler.
Güle güle.
Gule gule. Okay,
I've had some highs,
first checkpoint of any trek. Jacket removal, because the sun gets harsh and you've started to sweat.
times that I've had with you. I'd take out a loan for just one day alone to run back.
Doesn't this remind you a little of Red Dead?
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, you know that cafe where you can recoup, then this horse track, and even the landscape. There's so much life here, right? Like there are like so many different kinds of plants, so many birds. I didn't expect that. I thought it'll be rocky, so you may not find many things around.
In hindsight, using video game references to describe a place like Cappadocia does sound a bit absurd. But when you think about it, how else could two aliens from the city make sense of a terrain as otherworldly as Cappadocia's was? We then spent many hours exploring the entire stretch of the Love Valley, wading through some thorny shrubs and passing through some big, dusky dens.
Glow on your face,
Okay, it's very pichik.
a seaside sunrise.
We stopped when we felt like the valley had stories to tell and marched forward when it seemed like we had heard it all. And after spending the entire morning in the deep trenches of the Love Valley, we finally came out on the other
Like
side.
that chill grant you grace, the grace to remember sunny.
Alright, there's an orange juice shop up there. Just what we needed. Perfect way to end the hike. Yes, a well-earned orange juice.
It's a good way to end this hike.
I think we need some food now.
Oh man, so hungry. So hungry.
Okay people, as much as we'd want to climb the Uchasar Castle right now, we are super hungry, and we'll go and have some late brunch, mostly in Goremi, and I guess we'll have to hitch a ride from the highway here, go to Goremi, have some brunch, then maybe take a nap, and then come back in the evening to explore the Uchasar Castle.
Now, here's the thing about Cappadocia. It's got all the scenic landscapes, fairy chimneys, the balloons, and also the friendliest of drivers. So getting a free ride back to Goremi did come easy. But it's got this one little caveat: vegetarian food. And I'm not talking about these Indian cuisine knockoffs. I'm talking about real, authentic Turkish vegetarian. Well, that was going to take a little more of an effort than walking into a random cafe next to the highway.
This one's okay actually. I've been trying lentil soups all over Turkey now. This one definitely doesn't rank in the top. How's it?
Decent. Not great, not terrible. Somewhere in between.
And like always, we have a little guest. Where'd it go? Just come for some free food. The lentil soup wasn't okay. We don't have a lot of hopes when it comes to the gozlime. Well, at least the stuffing is less. Let's see.
Cappadocia is a collection of many small tourist towns nestled in the crevices of its valleys, and Uchasar is one such town. Mostly known for its castle, aptly named the Uchasar Castle, which many consider, for the lack of a better word, the flagship castle of Cappadocia. But before we went to the Uchasar Castle, we decided to take a minor detour to, have a small little less touristy adventure of our own.
They've got these little nooks in the wall, maybe to keep like lamps or lanterns. And I'm just trying to imagine all those people who lived here like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, lighting lamps and sitting here. And this thing would actually light up like a fairy chimney.
By the way, did you know that people used to stay here all the way till 1900s? It's only recently, relatively recently, that they have moved out of these places. Wait, there's something up there. Give me 1 second. Hey!
I hope it doesn't cave in. What? They're good.
Yeah. I feel like the famous five.
I think this is some sort of oven that they've made for themselves. One of those things where you dig a pit and you put coal on top. Hey, what is this?
Lavender. Maybe as a storage space or something. This feels like somebody's home.
Yeah, you can get used to this place.
And then, after being wannabe tomb raiders for a few hours, the not so famous two had to give in to the tourist FOMO. So we headed straight to the Uchasar Castle. Got a tiny bit distracted, but finally climbed up the hornet's nest to get the best views of Cappadocia that any living soul without wings or balloons could ever get. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the vote for the best sunset in Cappadocia goes to, yep, you guessed it right.
We've had a little bit of a late start this morning, and by the time we woke up, the sun was already out and about. So what we decided to do was hop over to this town of Avanos, which is just about 2 kilometers from Goremi. And this town is very famous for one thing, which is pottery. And the reason it's famous for pottery is because of this river behind me, which is called as the Red River, because of all the clay that, you got it right, the Avanos people used to make pottery for many hundreds of years. We also want to get indoors right now, so we're going to get a first-hand experience of making pottery the Avanos way. We tried our hands at the pottery workshop and it was a lot of fun. Okay, don't get me wrong, like getting your hands muddy, clayey or dirty is so much fun. But to be honest, I think our friend Davos did a lot more about it than we did, because he was like a really good teacher and he kind of guided the whole thing. I made a pot and it was a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure left alone I wouldn't be able to do it, but it was fun nevertheless.
But for the ones who don't like to get their hands dirty, there's this other way to getting to know your pots. And this time we had some real good company. And of course they were good, because they loved Bangalore.
What's your favorite place to eat in Bangalore?
MTR. I love masala dosa so much.
Let's have one.
It tastes a little bit like the South Indian sambar. Yes. It does. It does.
Do you want to try?
No?
Yeah, it tastes like sambar.
It's good. I like it.
Very delicious. And all those vegetables are perfectly like cooked, in that theme. I like it a lot.
And with that Asian seal of approval, we declared the pottery kebab a grand hit.
So we've driven up some 35 kilometers from Goremi to this place called Deringkuyu. From the outside, Deringkuyu looks pretty much like any other suburban town. There's not a lot going on. But this changed for this town entirely in the 60s when they discovered that there is a whole city underneath here.
With every few meters we went down the rabbit hole, the temperature dropped by a degree. 10 degrees in total, 85 meters deep. As deep as the Statue of Liberty put upside down. But the point to be noted is that once upon a time, about 20,000 people called this their home.
Somebody was here and they made all of this.
It had active stables, kitchens, schools, even a fully functional centralized air conditioning system.
This is real deep, man. So apparently this is like a one-way tunnel which is about 150 stairs deep, and we need to do it in one go because till we go down, nobody can come up. We are right now standing in the church of the underground city, and it's really fascinating because since it was an underground city, they couldn't build a church that had a vertical cross, so they built a church that resembles a horizontal cross, like a cross on the floor. We are about like 10 stories deep underground, and they built this damn thing thousands of years ago, which I'm like gobsmacked and absolutely fascinated. It smells like orange. And just when we thought it couldn't get creepier, we are entering the grave. This I cannot tell you, but this is really creepy, and it's getting super dark.
With all of this built and engineered more than a century ago, we had just begun to understand that the Anatolian adventure was all about blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. Now, when you strip Cappadocia down from its tourism, balloons and caves, you will notice that it's nothing but the Turkish countryside, drenched in tradition with the friendliest of people.
Was all I had to eat. I have served my country, worked for Uncle Sam, but
And all that underground isolation had definitely left the extrovert in us craving for some connection. So we drove across towns to make some new friends, and while we were at it, we thought we might as well learn to cook.
every night. Some people like fried chicken, others like their ham, but cornbread and buttermilk made me what I am.
So we removed the tops of the peppers because we're going to stuff rice and veggies, and we're going to keep the caps on because later we're going to close it.
You remember those 90s pressure cooker advertisements that played on the television? They always had this one iconic dish, stuffed peppers, which most of us expected our mothers to cook, which they never did. Turns out, those stuffed peppers are actually a Turkish recipe. They're called dolmas. And guess who knew how to cook them? The first step of the recipe starts off by carving out some zucchini and peppers.
So this is what Arzu did, and this is what I did. You look how even this is, and this looks like it's been through like a knife crime or something.
Step number 2, you first go and get some tomato sauce.
The only man in the house right now trying to open a jar of tomato paste, but come on. Is this sealed by any chance? Are you guys like joking with me?
So apparently she makes everything organic by hand. They have the farms, so they get the produce here, and she makes everything by hand.
You then chop a few of those onions and saute them in some olive oil. After that, empty the jar of sauce into it. And here comes the star of the show, Turkish white rice. Taste it, smell it, feel it, anticipate it. A dash of parsley later, take it off the burner to start off with the filling.
So this is the filling for the dolma, and they only semi-cook it because it's going to cook again when we put the mixture inside the peppers and whatever veggies, and then it's going to boil.
Cornbread and buttermilk made me what I am. Yes, cornbread
And then you let it cook till the sun goes down. The second dish for the night was about potatoes and raviolis and yada yada yada. But more than anything else, this was about making new connections. and you will soon see why.
Gook, that's not any.
Bastır dışarı, çok bas, bir şey olmaz.
Push it stronger. Yes.
Yeah, more force.
Yeah, more force. You can do it. If you can see the size of this manti, it's like absolutely tiny pockets, okay? And there's so many of them that you have to make that it's impossible for one person to make it. So apparently Turkish women, when they want to meet and hang out, they say let's make manti because that means it's going to take a good 5 hours, and that means, you know, they can have their tea and their baklava, sit around and casually cook. Very leisurely and joyous activity.
Oh.
When you're playing sous chef to an expert, you just do whatever they say because you know they'll know what to do. Even if you mess it up, they'll fix it for you. So you know, when they say that food brings people together, this has been such a wholesome experience. Like learning to cook from Arzu and spending time with both New and Leona. It's just been so wholesome. And now we are just waiting for our food to come on the table.
I'm not telling this just for the camera, but this is the best stuff that I've had since I've been to Turkey, and I've had really good stuff throughout. But this beats all of them. Especially that hint of garlic that reminds you of India in a way because it has that very tadka sort of a taste. That mixed with the yogurt and the ravioli. It's mind-blowing, man. It's like 2-3 different flavors that your Indian palate doesn't expect to come together has come together, and it works like a charm. If these guys are going to take some time to join us, I think I'll end up finishing the whole damn thing.
And this, dear friends, is what 4 mouthful happy faces look like.
Alright people, another bright and hot sunny day here in Cappadocia, and we are going to be hiking the Red Valley today, and it's called Red Valley because it's precisely that. It's a valley which is red in color. You might not see it right now, but then as we go through the trail, you'll start noticing the redness of this valley. We are expecting to see a lot of freaky rock formations like the one right behind me, and a lot of hidden churches, which is sure to satisfy the wannabe Indiana Jones and Tomb Raiders within me and Pooja. So let's stop wasting any more time, and before the sun gets way too harsh, let's get into the trail. Well, I think it's official now. These two guys here are our tour guides for today because they've been following us for the last 1 hour, and they're pretty serious about this because they're not giving up. When we stop, they stop. When we start walking, they follow us, or rather we follow them. Alright, I think we have come close to the first church which we can actually go in and explore, called Hasili Kilise. Kilise means church in Turkish. I don't know what Hasili means.
Oh boy. Imagine when they would have first found this place. Like, people would have been like, what? Oh my god. So we've come up inside one of the cave churches, and this one is known as the Cross Church or the Hasili Kilesi in Turkish. And this place is truly one of the things that connects us to our ancestors from 1,000 years ago. Here there's a church which is from 9th century AD, and all the paintings on it are still intact. just trying to read the symbols around here, and what we realized is this is the cross, and you have a circle around it. In Byzantine symbols, the circle gets used a lot. I think it's like to project the idea of the whole, because the circle is whole, and that's why you'll always find the god represented in a circle. And around the god are all the apostles. There are like 12 circles. And painting is again the same idea, right? You have the dome, and on the dome, within the circle is Jesus, and around are the apostles in that semicircle. How did they even conceive of doing that in this space? And 1,000 years ago, and we get to see it now.
O yüzden çok sert adamlar ama çok dürüst insanlar. Bir soruyu anladığın zaman...
biliyor musun?
You from India?
Yes.
How do you know?
Here say it India.
Well, like all good hikes in Cappadocia, you always, have this mid-hike orange juice stall, and we absolutely needed one round of orange juice, so we went for it. If you watch Breaking Bad, tight. If you know what I mean, it's like sour and sweet at the same time, and it absolutely hits you here. Like it just goes and hits you.
Look, we found a peach tree.
So this trail is supposed to take 2.5 hours, and I think we are close to quarter of the trail, and we're already 2 hours in. Every single time we tell ourselves, you know what, let's push through, let's cover some distance, and we walk maybe like 50 meters, we get views like this, and we stop, stare for like 10-15 minutes, and that's where we lose time. Now looking at the current trend, I think we'll take at least 5.5 hours to complete this trail. But man, this is so larger than life, man. Now we know why it's called Red Valley.
One of the largest cave churches in Cappadocia, called the Column Church, and there's no other word to describe this church other than wow. From the moment you walk in, your eyes are just drawn upwards because you have these tall towering columns and these archways. So there are 4 of these massive columns, and the columns go all the way up. And imagine this was about 1,000 years ago. So people only thought that columns had to be straight and they had to be like a specific way. But because you were carving out of rock, the people who were carving it took a lot of liberty, because carving it straight is difficult. So they made the columns circular.
Okay, I'm just googling about this church because I want to understand what's happening here in this room. We have these columns which are curving up top. And I just figured, courtesy Google, that they don't have any structural meaning. They were actually done to mock traditional architectural designs where the columns are usually straight and they're used to support the roof. But since this is a cave church, you actually never needed these columns to support the roof. So the artists kind of took creative liberty to make curved columns. So tour guides Poplu had to be left outside the church. So right now inside is just me and Pooja, plus a few pigeons who are I think nesting around here. You're never alone in Cappadocia. You always have some form of life accompanying you, giving you a tour of the place.
When we peeked through the window, we saw that our local guides were patiently waiting for us, because they had this one another thing that they wanted to show. Though the path to it was a tad bit treacherous.
Some good Samaritan has left a rope dangling for not so sure-footed like us. So
like you.
Like me. Whoa, yeah.
Careful. Wasn't the hike worth it?
Yeah. So I'm terrified of heights, okay? And this place has some really steep climb, and my hands were like shaking, and there's nothing to hold on to because it's like sort of mud, and then you have like thorns on the left. But these views, they make everything worth it.
Down in the dawns till I turn it all to joy. Not cause I care what they think.
After we took in all the views that we could, we were led by our new friends to what we believe was their little secret. The greenest, most beautiful looking tree in a sea of red. You know, the kinds where Andy Dufresne could hide a stash for Red to go figure. For us though, it was a way to finally spend some quiet time sitting with our gracious guides. And like Red, get a lesson on hope and most importantly, all things beautiful. Have a great day everybody, and we'll catch up with you in the next one.